What would you do if you discovered your nurse was slowly poisoning you by stealing your life-saving medication? I'm William, and at 78 years old, I thought I could trust the people taking care of me at Sunset Manor nursing home. I was wrong. Every morning, Nurse Dana would hand me my pills with a smile, but I started feeling weaker instead of stronger. My arthritis got worse, my blood pressure stayed high, and my mind felt foggy. "Dana, something's wrong with these pills," I told her. She barely looked up. "Your body builds tolerance, Mr. Harrison. It's normal for someone your age." But as she walked away, I caught something that made my blood run cold. A smirk. The kind of expression someone makes when they think they're getting away with something. That's when I started counting my pills. I should have had 30 blood pressure tablets. I found 26. My neighbor Harold whispered to me, "You're not the only one asking these questions. You're watching Betrayal, HQ, where the vulnerable fight back against those who prey on them. If you're new here, we share the real stories of people who refused to be victims and got perfect justice instead." Hit that subscribe button and notification bell, because what William did to his medication-stealing nurse will restore your faith in karma. When I reported Dana to the administrator, he dismissed me completely. "Dana is one of our best nurses. Don't make trouble." That's when I realized I couldn't fight this the normal way. No one would believe an old man over a trusted nurse, so I decided to fight Dana with her own weapon, greed. I came up with a plan so brilliant, so perfectly legal, and so devastatingly effective that it would destroy not just Dana, but the entire corrupt system she was part of. What I did next will leave you speechless. Because sometimes the best revenge is giving someone exactly what they think they want, and watching it destroy them completely. This is my story. My medication wasn't working like it used to. Every morning when Nurse Dana handed me my pills, I felt weaker instead of stronger. My arthritis pain got worse, my blood pressure stayed high, and my mind felt foggy. "Dana, something's wrong with these pills," I told her during my morning routine. "They don't seem as effective anymore." She barely looked up from her clipboard. "Mr. Harrison, medications lose effectiveness over time. Your body builds tolerance. It's completely normal for someone your age." But as she turned to leave my room, I caught something that made my blood run cold. A slight smirk crossed her face, the kind of expression someone makes when they think they're getting away with something. I'd been a businessman for 40 years before retiring to Sunset Manor. I knew the look of someone who thought they were outsmarting me. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing despite the supposed sleep medication. Something wasn't right about Dana's explanation. My doctor had never mentioned building tolerance to these specific medications. I decided to start paying closer attention to everything Dana did. I began counting my pills the next morning. According to my prescription bottle, I should have had 30 blood pressure tablets. I counted 26. My arthritis medication was supposed to be a bottle of 60 pills, refilled 2 weeks ago. I found 53. I counted again, thinking I'd made a mistake. The numbers were the same. That afternoon, I struck up a conversation with my neighbor, Harold, an 80-year-old former accountant. "Harold, have you noticed anything odd about your medications lately?" He looked around nervously, then wheeled his chair closer to mine. "Funny you should ask," he whispered. "My diabetes medication seems weaker. I've been having more episodes, but when I mentioned it to Dana, she said it was just my condition getting worse." My stomach dropped. This wasn't just about me. "Have you counted your pills?" "Every day since last month. I'm missing about 6 pills from each bottle." Harold leaned even closer. "William, you're not the only one asking these questions. Mrs. Patterson has been having the same problems." I felt a chill run down my spine. This was bigger than I'd imagined. The next morning, I went straight to the administrator's office. Mr. Wilton sat behind his desk, typing on his computer and barely acknowledging my presence. "Mr. Wilton, I need to report something serious. I believe there's an issue with medication distribution." He didn't even look up from his screen. "What kind of issue, Mr. Harrison?" "Several residents are missing medications from their prescriptions. We think someone might be taking them." "That's a serious accusation." His tone was dismissive. Do you have proof? I placed my pill bottles on his desk. I've been counting. These numbers don't match what they should be. Finally, he looked up, but his expression wasn't concerned. It was annoyed. Mr. Harrison, Dana is one of our best nurses. She's been here for 5 years with an excellent record. I won't have residents making unfounded accusations against my staff. But I have evidence. What I see is an elderly man getting confused about his medication schedule. It happens. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have real work to do. I left his office knowing 2 things. The administration was either incompetent or complicit, and I was on my own. I decided to change my strategy completely. If confronting the problem directly wasn't working, I'd have to be more clever about gathering evidence. The next morning when Dana arrived with my pills, I put on my best confused elderly man act. "Oh, Dana, I'm so sorry. I can't remember if I took my morning pills yesterday. My mind has been so foggy lately." She smiled. That same smirk I'd seen before. "Don't worry, Mr. Harrison. Memory issues are normal at your age. I'll make a note in your chart to check on you more frequently." Perfect. I was playing exactly the role she wanted me to play. Over the next few days, I continued the act. I pretended to be more confused, more dependent, more helpless. I asked Dana to help me with simple tasks I could easily do myself. Her confidence grew. She started talking to me like I was a child, explaining things slowly and loudly. "Now, Mr. Harrison, I need you to take these pills. They'll help you feel better." As her guard dropped, I started noticing things. She never counted the pills in front of me anymore. She often left my room quickly after giving me medication. And most importantly, she started getting sloppy about hiding her real activities. Asterisk, asterisk. From my asterisk, asterisk, bed by the window, I had a perfect view of the hallway. I started pretending to nap during Dana's shift, keeping one eye slightly open to watch her movements. That's when I overheard the phone call that changed everything. Dana was standing just outside my room, speaking in a hushed voice. "Yes, I have this week's supply ready. No, the pickup schedule works fine. The shortfall from last month has been covered." My heart pounded as I listened. The old man in room 12 is getting suspicious, but I'm handling it. No, he's just confused. The administrator believes me over him anyway. She was talking about me. And she was talking about some kind of pickup schedule and supplies. The quantity should be the same as always. Mix of pain medications, blood pressure pills, and diabetes meds. Yes, the quality is pharmaceutical grade. This wasn't just theft. This was organized drug trafficking. Dana was stealing medications from multiple residents and selling them to someone else. As she ended the call and walked away, I realized I was dealing with something much bigger and more dangerous than I'd initially thought. That night, I couldn't sleep. I needed to find allies, but I had to be careful about who I trusted. The wrong person could warn Dana and make my situation much worse. At 2 a.m., I heard a soft knock on my door. "Mr. Harrison, are you awake?" A young nursing assistant named Brenda slipped into my room, looking terrified. "I've been watching you," she whispered. "I know you've been asking questions about the medications." My heart raced. Had I been too obvious? "I want to help you," she continued. "What Dana is doing, it's wrong. But I'm scared to speak up." "What do you know?" "She's not working alone. There's a whole system. They take medications from residents who they think won't notice or who can't advocate for themselves." Brenda pulled out a small notebook. "I've been keeping track. She meets with someone from outside the facility twice a week. Always in the laundry room during shift changes when fewer people are around. She showed me dates and times written in careful handwriting. The administration knows, Mr. Harrison. They have to know. But they're either getting paid to look the other way, or they're scared of what exposing this would do to the facility's reputation." The following day, I requested my medical chart from the nursing station. What I found made my blood boil. My records showed doses I'd never received, symptoms I'd never reported, and notes about confusion and memory loss that were completely fabricated. According to Dana's notes, I was becoming increasingly disoriented and uncooperative. She'd written that I frequently forgot taking my medications and often became agitated when reminded. None of it was true, but I understood her strategy now. She was building a paper trail that would make me look unreliable if I ever tried to report her. If I accused her of stealing, she could point to these records and claim I was a confused old man imagining things. The most disturbing entry was from 2 days ago. Patient showing increased signs of dementia. Recommend evaluation for memory care facility. She was trying to get me transferred to a different facility where I couldn't cause trouble for her operation. I photographed every page with the small camera my grandson had given me, making sure to capture the dates and signatures. This was evidence of fraud, but it was also proof of how systematic and calculated Dana's operation really was. **Dr. Hale **. Visited me for my monthly checkup, and I could tell something was bothering him. Mr. Harrison, I've been reviewing your chart, and there are some discrepancies I don't understand. What kind of discrepancies? I'm seeing notes about medication changes I never authorized. Your blood pressure medication was supposedly adjusted 3 times in the past month, but I have no record of ordering those changes. He leaned closer and lowered his voice. Between you and me, I'm suspicious about what's happening here. I've had several patients from this facility showing signs that don't match their medication schedules. What can you do about it? Dr. Hale sighed. Officially? Very little. The nursing home administration handles day-to-day medication distribution. I can only prescribe and monitor. And unofficially? Unofficially, I think there's internal fraud happening here. But I need concrete evidence before I can report it. And I need to be careful. Accusations like this can destroy careers, including mine, if I'm wrong. He handed me his private card. If you notice anything specific, anything at all, call me immediately. Don't go through the nursing home's main number. As Dr. Hale left, I realized I had a potential ally in the medical community, but I still needed more evidence to convince him to take action. That night, I lay awake thinking about my situation. I couldn't fight Dana through normal channels. The administration was protecting her, and my word alone wasn't enough to convince outside authorities. I needed to think like the businessman I used to be. In business, when you couldn't beat someone through direct competition, you found their weakness and used their own strategies against them. Dana's weakness was her greed. She was stealing medications for profit, which meant she valued money above everything else. What if I could use that greed to trap her? Then it hit me. A crazy idea that was so audacious it might actually work. Power of attorney. If Dana was willing to steal pills from helpless elderly people, she might also be willing to take on financial responsibility if she thought it would benefit her. I started formulating a plan that would use Dana's greed and overconfidence to destroy her completely. The idea was risky, but after weeks of being treated like a helpless old man, I was ready to show everyone exactly how sharp my mind still was. The next morning, I completely changed my approach with Dana. Instead of being suspicious or confused, I started praising her. Dana, you're the only nurse here who really cares about us residents. The others just go through the motions, but you take time to make sure we're comfortable. She seemed surprised by my sudden friendliness, but pleased. That's very kind of you to say, Mr. Harrison. I mean it. You're the only person I trust in this place. Over the next few days, I continued building her ego. I told her she was more competent than the doctors, more caring than the other nurses, and more trustworthy than the administration. Dana ate up every word. You know, Dana, I've been thinking. I'm getting older, and handling my financial affairs is becoming more difficult. All these bills and paperwork, it's overwhelming. Her eyes lit up with interest. Is there anything I can help with? Well, I hate to impose, but I've been considering giving someone power of attorney to help manage my affairs. Someone I really trust. That's a big decision, she said, trying to sound concerned while clearly being excited. It is, but I can't think of anyone more qualified than you. Dana agreed to meet with me the following day to discuss the power of attorney arrangement. I could see the greed in her eyes, as she probably imagined gaining access to whatever savings she thought I had. "Mr. Harrison, I'm honored that you trust me with something so important," she said, sitting beside my bed with a fake, concerned expression. "I just need someone reliable to handle my bills and paperwork. It's all becoming too confusing for me." I handed her a folder containing what appeared to be standard power of attorney documents. The lawyer said, "I just need a witness signature, and then you'll be able to help manage my financial affairs." Dana barely glanced at the paperwork before signing her name with a flourish. "Don't worry, Mr. Harrison. I'll take excellent care of everything." If she had read the fine print carefully, she would have noticed that the power of attorney was specifically limited to one account, an account she didn't know existed, the account that contained the nursing home's hidden debt ledger. Through my business connections, I discovered that Sunset Manor was carrying over $2.7 million in undisclosed debt from previous lawsuits and regulatory violations. With her signature, Dana had just made herself legally responsible for every penny of it. Asterisk, asterisk. Within hours, asterisk, asterisk, the legal transfer was complete. Dana was now the official holder of power of attorney over the nursing home's most toxic financial liability. I called my lawyer, Mr. Peterson, to confirm everything was in order. "It's done, William. She's now legally responsible for the debt management of that account. The nursing home's creditors can pursue her directly for payment." How long before they realize what happened? Probably not until the next billing cycle, which should be within a few days. When the creditors try to contact the nursing home about payment, they'll be directed to your nurse instead. The beauty of the plan was its simplicity. Dana thought she was gaining access to my personal finances, but instead, she'd inherited a financial nightmare that could destroy her life. I spent the rest of the day acting normally, taking my now properly counted medications and chatting with other residents. Dana was working her shift with a spring in her step, probably already planning how to access what she thought was my bank account. She had no idea that her own signature had just triggered the beginning of her complete downfall. The debt collectors would start calling soon, and Dana's medication theft operation would be the least of her problems. Asterisk, asterisk, the explosion, asterisk, asterisk, came exactly 3 days later. I was eating breakfast when I heard shouting from the administrative wing of the building. "What do you mean she's responsible for the debt?" Mr. Wilton's voice echoed through the hallways as he screamed into his phone. Within an hour, the entire administration was in chaos. Wilton burst into my room, his face red with anger. "Mr. Harrison, what the hell did you do?" I looked up from my newspaper with my best confused elderly man expression. "I'm sorry? I don't understand what you're asking." "The power of attorney. You gave Dana power of attorney over our debt account." "Oh, that." Dana offered to help me with my paperwork. She's such a caring nurse. She said she'd take care of everything for me. "You don't understand. That account contains millions of dollars in debt obligations." I shrugged innocently. "Well, Dana assured me she could handle all my financial affairs. She seemed very confident about managing money." Wilton looked like he was about to have a heart attack. "This is a disaster. The creditors are already calling her directly. She's personally liable for payments we can't make." "That does sound complicated," I said. "Maybe you should talk to Dana about it." Word spread through the nursing home like wildfire. Staff members gathered in small groups, whispering about what had happened. Some of the nursing assistants who'd known about Dana's theft looked at me with new respect. Brenda even gave me a thumbs up when no one was looking. But other staff members, particularly those who'd been loyal to Dana, turned against me. "Mr. Harrison is more manipulative than we thought," I heard one nurse say. "How could he trick Dana like that?" Dana herself was nowhere to be seen for most of the day. When she finally appeared for her evening shift, she looked like she hadn't slept. "Mr. Harrison, we need to talk." "Of course, dear. Is everything all right? You look upset." "The power of attorney document. There's been some kind of mistake. I think you accidentally included the wrong account information." I tilted my head, confused. "I'm sorry. I don't understand. You said you'd take care of all my financial affairs. Isn't that what you're doing?" "Mr. Harrison, this is serious. I'm getting phone calls from debt collectors demanding millions of dollars. That does sound serious. But you signed the papers, saying you could handle everything. I trusted you completely. Her face was getting redder. You have to revoke the power of attorney. But Dana, you promised you'd take excellent care of everything. Are you saying you can't handle it after all? Asterisk, asterisk. Dana's counterattack, asterisk, asterisk, came the next day. She began spreading rumors about me throughout the facility. Mr. Harrison isn't as confused as he pretends. She told anyone who would listen. He deliberately manipulated me into signing those documents. He's a scheming old man who can't be trusted. Some staff members believed her, but her credibility was damaged by the phone calls she kept receiving from debt collectors. Every few hours, her phone would ring, and she'd have to step outside to argue with someone about payment schedules and liability issues. The other residents started looking at me differently. Some with fear, worried about what I might be capable of, but others, especially those who'd suspected Dana of stealing their medications, looked at me with admiration. You got her? Harold whispered to me during lunch. Whatever you did, you got her good. Mrs. Patterson, who'd been complaining about missing pills for months, actually applauded when she saw me. I don't know how you did it, but that woman finally got what she deserved. The power of attorney documents were legally binding and properly notarized. Dana's signature made her responsible for the debt whether she understood what she was signing or not. An outside audit team arrived at Sunset Manor 5 days after Dana signed the power of attorney. The debt collectors had reported irregularities to the state regulatory board. 3 investigators in suits spent the day reviewing financial records, medication logs, and interviewing staff members. They started finding discrepancies immediately. Dana's medication distribution logs didn't match the pharmacy delivery records. Prescription counts were consistently short across multiple residents. Refill requests were being submitted more frequently than prescribed dosages would require. When they interviewed residents, the investigators heard the same story repeatedly. Medications that seemed weaker, missing pills, and health problems that didn't match their treatment plans. I was interviewed for over an hour. I told them about my missing medications, the fake symptoms in my medical chart, and Dana's suspicious behavior. Mr. Harrison, these are serious allegations. Do you have any evidence to support them? I handed them my photographs of the falsified medical records and Brenda's notebook documenting Dana's suspicious meetings. We've been gathering information for weeks, I said. Dana has been running a systematic operation to steal medications from residents and sell them to outside buyers. The lead investigator looked stunned. And the power of attorney situation? I wanted to make sure Dana faced consequences for what she'd been doing to us. Someone had to stop her. Dana cornered me in my room that evening, her eyes wild with panic. You have to revoke that power of attorney! The debt collectors are threatening to garnish my wages. They want to put liens on my house. I looked up from my book calmly. Dana, I'm confused. Didn't you read the documents before you signed them? I trusted you. You said it was just to help with your bills. It is helping with bills. Just not the bills you were expecting. This isn't fair. You tricked me. I set down my book and looked at her directly. Dana, for months you've been stealing medications from elderly people who trusted you. You made us weaker, sicker, and more vulnerable so you could make money selling our pills. Her face went white. You falsified medical records to make me look incompetent. You tried to get me transferred to memory care to silence me. You've been systematically abusing some of the most vulnerable people in society. I was just... You should have read the fine print, Dana. In business, you always read the fine print. She stormed out of my room, slamming the door so hard that the frame cracked. But I knew her anger was really fear. The debt she'd inherited was going to destroy her financially, and there was nothing she could do about it. The audit team's investigation revealed something even more shocking than Dana's medication theft. Mr. Wilton had been using residents' medication budgets to cover settlement payments from previous lawsuits. The nursing home had been sued multiple times for neglect and abuse. Instead of using insurance or reserves to pay settlements, Wilton had been quietly diverting money from medication purchases. This explained why the facility was chronically short on medications, and why nurses like Dana found it so easy to steal pills without anyone noticing the shortfalls. The administration has been systematically underfunding medication purchases for 3 years, the lead investigator told the staff during an emergency meeting. Mr. Wilton created a situation where medication theft became almost inevitable, then ignored reports of theft when it was brought to his attention. Dana wasn't just a rogue nurse, she was a cog in a much larger system of abuse and neglect. But that didn't absolve her of responsibility. If anything, it made her crimes worse, because she'd knowingly participated in a scheme that put residents' lives at risk. The power of attorney trap I'd set for her was looking more justified by the hour. Management tried to negotiate with me the next day. Wilton brought the facility's lawyer to offer me a deal. Mr. Harrison, we're prepared to offer you enhanced care services and a private room if you're willing to revoke the power of attorney. That's generous, but I'm comfortable with my current arrangements. The lawyer leaned forward. Sir, you may not understand the full implications of what you've done. The debt liability could bankrupt Miss Dana. Her family could lose their home. That's unfortunate. But she signed the documents voluntarily. I didn't force her to do anything. But surely you can see that the punishment doesn't fit the crime. I looked at both men seriously. Gentlemen, Dana has been poisoning elderly people for months. She's been stealing medications that keep us alive and healthy. She falsified medical records and tried to have me declared incompetent to cover her tracks. I paused, letting that sink in. The punishment fits the crime perfectly. Dana made her choices, and now she gets to live with the consequences. Wilton's face was getting red again. You're destroying this facility. The negative publicity alone, then maybe you should have stopped Dana when residents first complained, instead of protecting her. The meeting ended with no agreement. I wasn't backing down. The staff was in complete revolt by the end of the week. Half the nurses were demanding Wilton's resignation, while the other half wanted Dana fired immediately. Some employees were choosing sides based on loyalty, but most were just trying to protect themselves as the investigation expanded. Brenda approached me during lunch. Mr. Harrison, I wanted to thank you. A lot of us knew what was happening, but we were too scared to speak up. Why were you scared? Dana had influence with management. Anyone who crossed her usually found themselves fired for minor infractions. She made it clear that questioning her would cost us our jobs. Other staff members started approaching me throughout the day, sharing similar stories. Dana had created a culture of fear that enabled her theft operation. She'd bullied younger staff into silence and convinced management that any complaints were just troublemaking. Meanwhile, Dana herself was barely functioning. She'd received 3 more calls from debt collectors that day, and her hands were shaking as she tried to work. The debt I'd transferred to her was real and substantial. The creditors weren't going to give up just because she claimed she'd been tricked. She was learning the hard way that actions have consequences. Dana received a formal legal summons the following Monday. The nursing home's creditors were taking her to court for the debt obligations she'd inherited through the power of attorney. When the process server arrived at the facility, Dana broke down crying in the hallway. I can't pay $2.7 million. I don't have that kind of money. The other staff members watched in uncomfortable silence as Dana sobbed about losing her house, her car, and her children's college fund. But I noticed that not once did she apologize for what she'd done to the residents. Even facing financial ruin, her concern was entirely for herself. Harold wheeled his chair over to me during the commotion. William, I have to ask, did you know this would happen when you gave her that power of attorney? Harold, in business, you learn to read people. Dana signed those papers because she thought she could profit from them. She never bothered to understand what she was really agreeing to. But did you plan this? I smiled. Let's just say I read the fine print more carefully than she did. The beautiful irony was that Dana's greed had been the instrument of her own destruction. She'd brought this on herself by trying to exploit what she thought was a confused old man. Dana finally snapped during the afternoon shift. She stormed into the common area where several residents were watching television. You all think Mr. Harrison is some kind of hero, but he's not. He's a manipulative old man who destroyed my life. Mrs. Patterson looked up from her knitting. You destroyed your own life by stealing our medications. I was trying to help people. The nursing home wasn't buying enough medications, so I was supplementing income to afford better care." Harold laughed bitterly. "You were selling our pills to drug dealers. We all know it. The whole system is corrupt. Wilton has been stealing money for years. I was just trying to survive in a broken system." "By making us sicker?" I asked quietly. "By falsifying our medical records? By trying to have me declared incompetent?" Dana broke down completely, admitting to everything in front of multiple witnesses. Yes, I took your medications, but I needed the money. Do you know how little nurses get paid? Do you know how expensive everything is? So you decided to steal from sick elderly people instead of finding honest work elsewhere?" She collapsed into a chair, sobbing. "I'm going to lose everything. My house, my kids' education, everything." The room was silent, except for her crying. No one felt sorry for her. The massive confrontation came 3 days later. Federal auditors arrived to investigate the systematic fraud that had been uncovered. They called a facility-wide meeting in the main dining room. Residents, staff, and administration were all required to attend. The lead federal auditor read a summary of their findings. Sunset Manor has been operating a systematic scheme to defraud Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance companies. Medication budgets have been diverted to cover lawsuit settlements. Nursing staff have been stealing medications for resale. Medical records have been falsified to hide evidence of neglect. Wilton tried to interrupt, but the auditor continued. "Mr. Wilton, you are personally responsible for creating the conditions that enabled this fraud. Your administrative decisions directly led to medication shortages that made theft both possible and profitable. And Dana Patterson, you are responsible for systematic medication theft, falsification of medical records, and elder abuse." Dana sat frozen as the charges were read. "Both of you will be facing criminal charges. Mr. Wilton, you will also be liable for the facility's debt obligations under your administrative bond." The entire corrupt system was finally collapsing. My quiet plan had detonated everything. As the auditors finished their presentation, I felt satisfied, but not triumphant. Justice was being served, but it had taken too long and hurt too many people. Asterisk, asterisk. The transformation, asterisk, asterisk, that followed was remarkable. The state appointed an interim administrator and brought in an entirely new nursing staff. Within 2 weeks, the medication distribution problems disappeared. Residents started receiving their full prescriptions on schedule. The culture of fear that Dana had created was replaced by professional competence and genuine care. The new administrator, Miss Foster, asked me to serve as the resident advisor for facility improvements. "Mr. Harrison, your actions exposed serious problems that we never would have discovered otherwise. Would you be willing to help us rebuild trust between residents and staff?" I agreed to the position. Working with other residents, we developed new policies for medication management, complaint procedures, and staff accountability. The nursing home board actually listened to our recommendations and implemented most of them. For the first time in months, I felt like the residents had a real voice in how the facility was run. Other residents started treating me with new respect. I wasn't just another old man anymore. I was someone who had fought back against injustice and won. The power of attorney trap had accomplished more than just punishing Dana. It had exposed an entire system of corruption and forced real reform. Dana was escorted out of Sunset Manor for the final time on a gray Tuesday morning. Security guards accompanied her as she cleaned out her locker, her nursing license already revoked by the state board. She looked broken and defeated, her face puffy from crying. As she passed my room, she stopped and looked at me through the doorway. I hope you're satisfied," she said bitterly. "Dana, I'm satisfied that you can't hurt any more residents. I'm satisfied that the medication theft has stopped. I'm satisfied that justice was served. You destroyed my entire life. No, Dana, you destroyed your own life. The moment you decided to steal medications from vulnerable elderly people, I just made sure you faced consequences for your choices." She started to say something else, but security urged her to keep moving. Wilton had been arrested the previous week, and was facing federal charges. The nursing home was under new management, with proper oversight and accountability. As I sat by my window that afternoon, taking my properly counted medications and watching the sunset, I whispered to myself the words that had kept me going through the darkest moments of Dana's abuse. Never underestimate an old man who's been pushed too far. The medication theft was over. The corruption was exposed, and I had my dignity back. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply making sure that bad people face the consequences of their own choices. If William's legal revenge satisfied you, tomorrow's story will shock you even more. Meet the grandfather who discovered his daughter abandoned his beloved dog at the pound, so he legally made the dog the primary beneficiary of his entire estate. Tomorrow's story. My daughter abandoned my dog at the pound, so I legally made the dog the primary beneficiary of my estate. What happened next proves that sometimes family betrayal leads to the most unexpected justice. Subscribe and hit that bell, because tomorrow's story will leave you speechless. See you at Betrayal HQ.